This is why you should always keep pictures of your parents. A little girl named Olivia who lived a very quiet life decided to check her homework assignments that were posted online. The teacher posted that they needed to write down their favorite memory with their family as well as bring a photograph. Olivia then writes about how her and her mom play dolls every night in the basement before bed and that she has a lot of fun doing so. She finishes her paragraph and then looks in her dad's drawer for a photograph of mom. She only found pictures of her mom from high school but decided to use it anyway. Olivia goes to bed and wakes up the next morning. Once she arrives at school, the teacher then says, "Let's start presenting our project." Then the teacher called Olivia's name to present. Olivia then begins to read about how her and her mom play dolls every night and then pulls out the photograph. As soon as Olivia pulled out the photograph, her teacher's face goes numb. She then asks Olivia if she can take a closer look at the photograph. She then recognized her mom as one of her previous students. Then the teacher asks, "Where did you get this photo?" Olivia says, "My dad keeps them in his drawer." The teacher, shocked, sits down Olivia and pulls out an old newspaper. The newspaper headline, "Local high school teen murdered, boyfriend gone missing." The teacher then looks at Olivia and says, "Your mom has been dead for 14 years. This is why you should never put your address online. One day a single dad was talking to his son named Colby. Colby insisted before bed that his dad read him a scary bedtime story. The dad agrees and begins saying there once was a kid who played with a guy named Helper 23. Helper 23 and the boy played video games for hours and hours every night. The boy's birthday was coming up, so Helper 23 wanted to get him a birthday gift in real life. The boy, excited, gives Helper 23 his address. A couple weeks go by and the boy feels guilty for giving this man his address, so he calls for his dad in the room. He yells, "Dad," but no answer. He goes out looking for his dad and finds his dad hung in the garage and then looks behind him. He sees a man wearing all black smiling at him and then he hears the baby crying. The mysterious man walks over to the baby's crib, picks up the baby and then kills the boy. The son, looking confused, says, "Dad, why did the guy take the baby?" The dad looks at him and says, "I always wanted to be a father." This is why you should always lock your front doors. A kid living with both of his parents decided to watch a movie for their family weekly movie night. He then gets up to use the restroom. As he is in the restroom, he sees all of the power in the house cuts off, and then he hears two loud thumps. He locks the bathroom door and hears heavy objects being dragged across the hallway. The kid, freaking out, runs out of the bathroom and runs into the restroom. Once he is inside the room, he locks the door. As he locks the door, he jumps in bed and acts like he's asleep in hopes that this person who is in the house will ignore a child sleeping. He closes his eyes and hears the door creak at the same time. He squints his eyes and sees a man with no eyes dragging the bodies of both of his parents. The man dragging his parents sits his mom's dead body in a chair facing him, and then sets the dad's body on the floor facing up. It was almost like whoever was in the house who killed them wanted him to see it. He then sees the man writing something on the wall and then climbs under his bed. He laid there for hours knowing that if he moved a muscle he would end up just like his parents. He finally built up enough courage to read the wall, and the writing on the wall said, "I know you're awake." This is why you should always keep a family photo album. A kid named James decided to visit his grandparents at the retirement home. He notices a family photo book and asks if he can see it. The grandparents tell him absolutely not, and James becomes curious and waits till they leave to look at it. Dinner is called and James sneaks back into the room and starts investigating the photo book. He finds pictures of his grandfather who was a teenager holding a baby girl. As he's looking, he hears footsteps and starts to put the book back. His grandfather walks in the room and says, "What are you still doing here?" James then asks the question, "Do you have any siblings?" His grandfather remained quiet and James then felt bad for asking the question. As James is leaving, he remembers that his grandparents owned a house prior to them living in the retirement home. He brings a hatchet because he knows that it's abandoned and drives there and bangs open the door. As soon as he walks in, he notices the smell. He constantly searches the bedrooms and can't find anything and decided to search the attic. As he's searching the attic, he hears this scratching sound in the floor. He uses the hatchet, breaks open the floor, and finds this woman who looks homeless. He freaks out and calls the police and they start to investigate it. A couple days go by and he goes back to visit his grandparents and he asks the receptionist, "May I visit my grandparents?" The receptionist looks at him and says, "Haven't you heard? Your grandfather was arrested for imprisonment and torture." This is why you should never go hiking on Dead Mountain. Be warned, this is one of the most scariest true stories ever told. And even to this day, 60 years later, remains one of the most unsolved mysteries ever. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass incident. The year is 1959 at the height of the Cold War. 9 Soviet university students decided to go hiking in the frozen Siberia. So as they're hiking, families start to get worried because they have not heard from their loved one. They send a team out to search for them and they find their campsite on the height of Dead Mountain. Here's where the conspiracy theories come. Their bodies, all of them, were found in the most random places on this mountain. And even scarier than that, every single one of these people you see were found undressed. And a couple of them were found with their eyes and tongue cut out. Some people believe that these people may have found a military weapon and the Soviets killed them. Some people believe this was some kind of UFO incident. And some people believe that this was some kind of Yeti attack because all of their stuff on the campground was untouched. This is why you should never play hide and seek. A mom decided to play hide and seek with her 2 kids. The mom began counting, ready or not, here I come. She begins searching the downstairs kitchen because she knows that they hide there every single time. As she's walking to the kitchen, she starts saying, I wonder where they are. She looks under the table and sees they aren't there, which is kind of odd. She knew they were too scared to go into the basement alone, but she decided to check anyway. They weren't there either. She began to panic. The mom then says, Jordan, Casey, come out now, mommy's not playing anymore. There was no answer. Panic really begins to set in. She decides to call 911 and reaches an operator. She tells the operator what's wrong and the operator sends an officer to her house. Once the officer arrives, he says, don't worry, we will find them. As she's sitting in the living room, she hears giggling and laughing and hears a closet door slam upstairs. She sprints upstairs and says, Jordan, Casey, you worried me sick. She opened the closet door and nobody was there. While all of this is going on, she hears the doorbell ring. She runs downstairs and finds the officer holding Jordan and Casey. The officer says, they were hiding in the shed out back. Then Jordan looks at mommy and says, why were you telling us to stay in the shed? This is why you should never download something from your school email. A 16-year-old kid was standing in line at school when he was waiting to get his Chromebook. Once he got his Chromebook, he drove all the way home and connected it to Wi-Fi. Over the next few days, he kept attending his Zoom call classes like everything was normal, until he got an email saying, download your latest school files. Him not thinking anything of it, clicked the file and downloaded it and then opened the program. He noticed that the program never opened, so he just assumed that the application just didn't work. So the next day on his Zoom call, all of a sudden a pop-up came up that said, check your email. He thought that was weird because he has never seen a pop-up say that before. So he checks his email and finds a bunch of videos of him on his computer. And some of these videos he wasn't really proud of, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, he keeps scrolling down the videos and finds one video where there's a car passing his parents' house. Apparently it was a huge virus and this person who targeted him downloaded all of these videos on like a flash drive and gave them to his parents. The guy was never caught because it was untraceable, so send this to your teacher if they try to get you to download something.